Welcome to the Eric J. Oh man. All right. All right. Welcome to the Eric J. the Great podcast show. Got a special guest on the show today. Author Kadesha Powell. How you doing today?
I'm good, Eric. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing all right.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. You know, I do these all the time, so I met a lot of different people.
Yeah.
So we'll just start from the beginning, and then just work our way up to what you got going on. You know, right now, as far as like your books and things like that. So first off, you know, just tell the people, you know, where you're from and how old are you?
I grew up in Joplin, Missouri, small little town in the Midwest corner of the state, but currently I live in Maryland, and I've been in the DC, Virginia, Maryland area since 2005.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will be, you said, how old am I?
Yeah.
I will be 47 in December.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm a December baby too.
Hey, what day?
30th.
Oh, I'm the third.
Oh, okay. So as far as like your hometown, how was it growing up? You know, like what were some of the obstacles and stuff you had to endure as a kid, teenager, things like that?
Yeah, so that was kind of the premise of my memoir, Growing Up Joplin. And I moved there with my dad and my sister. I have a younger sister who's about 17 months younger than I am. When I was about fourth grade. So I think you're about 9 around that time. And so it was definitely interesting. So leaving kind of the DC area to go to Missouri, where my father grew up, was definitely a little bit of a culture shock. And I don't think I noticed it until other people pointed out like color. You know, I think the very first time I had experience with color, because I had a little bit of a tumultuous childhood. So neither parent raised me. So my dad, who's my biological uncle, raised me and my sister because in the 70s and 80s, unfortunately in DC, a lot of things happening. And so he wanted us to kind of have like, you know, a normal childhood. And so we had missed a lot of school because we was bounced between relatives, unofficial Black foster care, you know, live with our grandma, then our aunt, then our mom, then, you know, so we got, you know, passed around a lot till finally my uncle's like, okay, enough of this. I'm taking the girls, we're moving to Joplin and I'm going to raise them, you know, and we were like, okay, we just wanted stability, you know. So I could just vividly remember being behind. So I was placed in remedial reading classes as well as math classes because, again, all missing school, not being able to focus on my education, it was there. So I remember an older white teacher that I had. I was struggling with some words in a book, you know, and she snatches the book from my hands. And like literally to this day, I hear her saying, like, you know, colored kids do not learn like white kids, and you will never be a strong reader. This is what she told me, fourth grade. So I tell people I looked down, you know, to kind of see, okay, I'm brown, looking at the rest of the kids who are not brown or any other kids of color. And that was my introduction to color. It would be a theme throughout the entire, you know, period growing up there in Missouri, which is why I chose to leave. And I think the beautiful side of it is leaving to see a whole nother world, to be able to find like self acceptance when, you know, there, because it's difficult when you're the only, like in any situations, you know, especially in kind of like white situations, because now not only am I the only, I have super ethnic name. So Kadesha. And then my sister's name was Yonika. So, you know, it was just a lot. So the microaggressions, not wanting to say our name right, you know, always being like, okay, you're da for a Black girl, being tagged on like everything where we're like, why? But again, until you're growing up with that, until you're outside of it, you don't really kind of see anything wrong with it, or like, oh, don't let it bother you too much. So that was it. So dating was also interesting because the town had 3% like Black population, right? Not very big, and we all was all related, right? So if you dated anyone, you know, it was one of two things. It was either okay, it has to be in secret because I can't bring you home to my family because I'll get in trouble, or they're racist, or, you know, flat out they would be honest, you know. So I was just like, I'm never going to be a secret. And my dad, had taught me, my sister, well, if he can't be seen with you in public, then there's nothing you need to be doing with anybody in the private, point blank, so that was a little bit difficult. Now, there was a couple that were just like, okay, I don't care about my family, or their family didn't care, so that was definitely, interesting. But more often than not, it was always issues with color first than anything else, kind of coming up again in the environment. And now, again, granted, some phenomenal people in the town. I can't say that there aren't any. There really are. But the overall shape does a little bit of a damage to the self-esteem, that you kind of have to unlearn things, as you grow, see the world, and get exposed to different things. And I think leaving Missouri and then international travel, helped me with that.
Okay.
Mhm.
So as far as, getting passed around like that as a kid, that can have a lot on that effect on you, as far, especially transition to your adult years when you're a teenager. So what type of effect that had on you not being around your parents as much and having to be raised by your uncle and people, I mean, they're family, but they're not supposed to be raising you.
Yeah, that had a massive effect, because a lot of people are like, oh, I didn't have my mom or my dad. And I'm like, neither parent raised us. Now, my mother, she had 5 children. I'm her third and her first daughter. And then my biological father, he has 6, and I'm his oldest. So I have like 9 brothers and sisters out here, but I was only raised, again, with Yonika and I. It does a huge effect on us, because the adults never told us like why we got passed around. It was like a family secret. Now, I know drugs was involved. Both struggled with some addictions and things like that, unfortunately couldn't be helped. But whether they thought, well, you guys are too young to know, no one attempted to let us know that it wasn't our fault. So we internalized it, which kind of turned it into a people pleasing situation growing up, of where, okay, if we do something wrong, we're going to be kicked out or we got to leave, because we never knew the answers, until, of course, we grew up later. But we also had to internalize that. And I also feel that the other part of it was, I had the hardest time trusting people. Like it's not easy trusting people. It's not easy letting people in, and it's still difficult, now. And I'm in therapy, and I tell people, get a therapist, get you a therapist that, preferably, if you can, it looks like you, in a sense, because there are some cultural things you may not necessarily have to understand. But we unpack some of that. And again, some of that's so deep rooted that it's like a big onion, So when I taught high school for 13 years, and I left the field in January. I would be able to relate to my students. I taught in DC. So having to just be honest about my story, about understanding, okay, well, if your mom or your parent is doing this or that's acting, and it made me more relatable to my students. And I also think in my book as well, because it's not a family secret to me, And when I talked to my relatives, they were just like, we were trying to protect you, but they didn't really know, what to do. And so what I did with my own son, I have a son, he's 25. I was always honest with him about everything, no matter, oh, he's too little to know about that. No, I started at 2 and 3. I started teaching him his private parts, and nobody could touch him. And there are no secrets between adults. And then, I started to just pour that into him, so that he could come to me with any issue or anything, and we could talk about anything. There was no subject off limits to us. And even if they were uncomfortable for me to talk to him, I forced myself to talk to him through, so he had the knowledge. And, unfortunately, his dad chose to leave, us. We hadn't seen him since Israel was about 3. And I would always tell him, I definitely sympathize with how you feel. One day, and I never spoke bad about his dad. I said, one day you'll meet him and have to sit across, and he has to answer for where he's been and why he hasn't been there for you. But know that you're surrounded by a circle of people who love you, who do anything to get the best for you, like that. So, now I've seen a little bits of how he's internalized that a little. But for the most part, when I had a kid, and then what was 2 things happening. We were like, well, if we have kids, they're not going to have like super ethnic names. My sister and I literally made a pact at like 12 and 13, because it was just too much with the names. And then I have Israel, we call him Izzy, and she has Brendan. So now we're also seeing a shift with the names, that the people that were born like Gen X, like us, with super creative names, kind of going back to, giving the kids some kind of traditional names, because we're also seeing how that plays effect in the systemic racism in jobs and applications and all this stuff that we literally see and have experienced.
Okay.
Mhm.
So what activities you was into as a kid? Like, did you play any sports or things like that? And also after you answer that question, also answer what you went through as a kid. Did that kind of transition you into like being an author? Because I know like a lot of people when they go through a lot of adversity as kids, they either have diaries or they just start, or they'll start venting to themselves and not writing it down, and then eventually, you know, just start writing it down, you know.
So when we grew up in Joplin, small town, like 50,000 people, it was pretty safe. Like we would be outside from the sun up, so sundown in the summer times, bicycle over to our friend's house. We and my sister were very active because, like I said, 16 months kind of separated us. So it's almost like a twin. So anything we wanted to try, my dad was like, cool. But the rule was, if you try it, you got to finish either the season or whatever it is. So he started us in gymnastics, and then we were kind of like, yeah, we're not feeling this. So he enrolled us in soccer. He then became our soccer coach, and we were pretty good. Plus, across the street from us lived two cousins. So we have two older cousins. So we're the oldest four. And so we were always playing and roughhousing with them and their friends, football, wrestling. This was time wrestling was real popular. We're actually pretty good athletes. So I love soccer. I played soccer for 11 years, indoor and out. And then my sister, she liked basketball. So she played basketball. We came back together for softball in the spring. And I remember when we first got to softball, it was pretty terrible because my sister and I are both left-handed. My dad, it didn't dawn on him, like once he was getting all the gear and he signed us up, that, oh, hey, so he gave us these right-handed gloves. And of course we didn't know. And he's like, okay, I know my girls are better athletes than this. What's happening? And then it dawned on him one day and he's like, wait, they're left-handed. So went out. And so by that time, my sister took to right-handed. So she does everything right-handed except for like eat and write. Me, I'm a full lefty. I bat left, kick left. I'm a full left dominant, person. So I think sports was a great connector because, again, the town being so small, you grow up and go to school with all the same people you meet. So soccer matches, we travel a little bit for the leagues, and then school happened at the time that I was growing up. School, we didn't have a soccer team, so I played with Boys and Girls Club, and then I also volunteered there to give that time. So stayed active, and I think being active in sports and kind of, like I said, being a tomboy, I feel like it kind of kept me out of a lot of trouble that some of my other friends was getting into, because I was working part-time, playing sports, and going to school. So it wasn't really any time for anything else. So then your second question about, was I always kind of a writer? I would say yes, but I would say it manifested in storytelling. So I would always have just the randomest stories. If I had an audience, like the little comedian of the group, like I would just have people with storytelling. So I had the stories for days, just be making up stuff. I see stuff in my head like a movie, have always been attracted to the creative field. So from the comment when that teacher made for me, I felt that time I could have made two decisions. I could have never picked up a book ever and believed and internalized that I could never be a strong reader. But what happened was the opposite of it. So something inside me was just like, okay, I don't believe it. I'm gonna do it. So the summer came. I had my dad take me to the library. I was checking out 15 books at a time, blazing through them the whole entire summer. Now, when I go to 5th grade and they go to test me to make sure, okay, she's gonna be back a reader. Why was I reading at an 8th grade level? In the 5th grade. Now, they did not believe me at all, tested me 3 times. I passed all the tests with like flying colors, knew the vocab, knew all the stuff, and they were just really shocked and perplexed. So I think that having that experience, although negative, something in me at that time was just like, no, I know I can be a strong reader. I know I can do it. And that's where my love of reading became, so I literally, dad he would drop me off the library every Saturday morning. I would spend about 3 hours in there. When I found out I could take out 15, and I would blaze through those books just like that. And I read them 2 or 3 times before the next Saturday because I love reading that much. And what people don't know is, one, when you read, increases your memory. You're reading and you're your memory recall skills expand out. So that's why I think being the storyteller comes from reading a lot, and then also my own overactive imagination. So that's how my love for reading and writing began, but I didn't begin writing until the pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, when the pandemic happened and you chose to pursue, being an author and putting books out and things like that, was anyone behind you pushing you to do that, or was that something that you just came up with on your own?
Well, I always was like, I want to write, but I know for me, I need accountability in my life. I'm great at starting stuff, but kind of the follow through, I could be totally honest, is a struggle. So my first night ever in Clubhouse, they had just opened. Clubhouse hadn't been on that long. And if you don't know, Clubhouse audio only little app, and now it's pretty popular. I popped in and it was like, so you want to write your book? So the first room that I ever saw, so I pop in that room, and Elena Kai was she's a award-winning author, over 30 plus books, was having a challenge: write your book in 30 days. And part of the challenge was, okay, we're going to go from Clubhouse to a Zoom, and then we'll tell you about the program. So inside the program, it was about 18 of us on this Zoom call, and they said, okay, you're going to be assigned a book coach. You need to check in with your book coach each day, and the goal is, again, you have to write each day, to get your memoir or your self-help book. Now, again, we started with 18. Once we weeded out everything, we got to 9. And unfortunately, like 4 of us went to publication. Now, it was super crazy stressful. So one of the things they told us was just like, hey, keep it personal. Don't share, don't blast it, because this is a thing that, for whatever reason, people love to hate on you if you tell them you're writing a book or you're doing something kind of creative, because maybe they wanted to do a book or, drop a music CD or something, whatever. But, a lot of people have it. So I talked to my husband. I was like, it's already a little bit of a stressful time. I'm about to add some stress, because it was also the heart of the pandemic. I was a teacher in this time. So trying to navigate those waters and write, already spending 8 to 12 hours and then spending another 2 hours on a computer, it was a lot. But I felt strongly about it. And then having that a daily accountability was the kicker for me, because my coach, she didn't play with me. All right, where's your word counts? You're a little couple days behind. What's happening? And I couldn't even, I was like, okay, I am in here messing around. I was binge watch something I should be right. She's like, get on it. And I was like, okay, yes, ma'am. So I was on it. She was the best coach for me. And so inside of that are the 4 of us, Marie McKenzie, who you interviewed and I watched, I believe last week, was in my group, Dr. Vanessa, who I think is coming up. And then we have another person, Erica B. Davis. The 4 of us, was the one. So we kind of knitted together to be each other's support, because we were going through it. So once we got it out, the first draft, and then we went through like so many edits, like it really was a process. And I embraced it. I embraced it because I wanted to learn as much as I can. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. And from us completing it, all 4 of us hit the Amazon #1 bestseller on the day of our release. And then we also had opportunities to write with the tribe, at some higher levels. So Erica and I co-wrote our Queen of Bahia, which we see here is a Queen of a Castle series that she has. Dr. Vanessa, I believe, continued on with the Pleasure series, and then I think Marie is in that as well. So we had opportunities, because we improved our writing skills and ability and our willingness to learn, to have 2 books come out in a year, within a year of writing and taking the writing serious. So that was like the amazing part of having people behind you inside of what we're working on. And so I shared with my husband, and then I shared with my aunt, because we had to cross check some references of like, when did we leave and what happened. She was kind of my fact checker, but everybody else, I kind of moved in silence, and I just popped up with a book. And that's why I tell people, you got to move in silence, because so many people get, that one person, well, why are you writing? You ain't got nothing to say. People internalize that and let somebody else's opinion stop them. And we really got to stop doing that. We can't stop negative people, but we can control how much access we give folks. That I think that's just wisdom. So I tell people, move in silence and just be popping up with stuff. And that's how I move. They say, you stay doing this, or you stay. Yeah. I just be popping up with stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like a lot of people have bucket list things. So like you'll have things that you want to do, be like, oh, I want to do this. But I feel like with being an author, that's
Yes.
one of those things that you have to have a real passion to do, because it can weed people out if you're not passionate about what you're writing, or passionate just about just starting about going about doing it. So like what gave you the passion like around that pandemic time to start that process?
Yeah. So the passion for me, because when I've told my story or shared it with people, almost everyone's next reaction is like, bro, you got to write a book. You should write. And I've been told that, a lot. And I'm like, oh, yeah. So then again, around probably November, probably 2 months before everything happened, that unction started flowing in my heart again about, okay, we need to get into writing and take it serious. So I really said a prayer and was like, okay, well, Lord, if that's in my heart, send me the people, because you know me, like I'm all over the place. Tell people when you're creative, there's some signs of ADHD in here, because we're like squirrel, 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 and I teach high school. So that also gives me the ability to be like squirrels, because every day is different. And I taught a creative course to kids. I taught kids how to shoot and edit video. So staying in the creative, but giving so much to my kids, I had nothing to give out for myself. So being home for the pandemic, those 18 months, allowed me to really explore that passion again. And then when I saw Nelena's group and I popped in, I was like, okay, this is where I need to be, at this time and at this moment to get everything done. I feel that writing a book is a skill, because there are some people that may not be passionate about it, but there are ways that they have great stories. And we know that self-publishing is leveling the playing field. So for us, especially the way we see it published, I feel like we need to tell our stories our way. And when I tell people I have a different perspective, being an African-American and grown up around an all-white environment, how that's a different perspective and a different type of trauma than what the media tries to show as a Black experience. It shows that, okay, again, we are not a monolith. You have middle-class Black folks, you got upper class, you have all different classes, and we're not all the same, which is, again, that narrative that everyone, wants to try to push, or the things that we only see. So that's why I was like, okay, let me do this and just get my story out, because once it's on words, it's out. And so I've had a lot of people connect with me, but the biggest group of people that I found interesting are people who identify as biracial women, because they said that they knew, like, they connected because they felt like not having a place and then not being accepted. It really resonates. So that was a surprise to me. I would have never have thought that, so again, I wouldn't have known that without putting it out there, talking about the book on podcasts. I threw my own book signing events and stuff like that, and to have people just say, wow, your book really touched me, I was inspired. It was solid. They said I couldn't put it down, I laughed, I cried, you're a great storyteller. So that just really kind of touches my heart to be like, okay, wow, I have a little bit of a legacy to kind of put out. I'm just one little, shortcake out here in the world.
Yeah, so as far as your books, so tell people how many books you have out currently, and the names of them, and just give a brief description of what they are about.
Yes. Okay. So what we've been talking most about is my memoir, Growing Up Joplin. And as I said, that's kind of my triumphs and my challenges of growing up as one of a few African Americans in a small white Midwestern town. And then that led to my first romantic suspense, which I co-wrote with Erica B. Davis. And it is book 9 of Nelena Kai's Queens of the Castle series. And so she has, it's the third of the series. So they started Kings of the Castles, then I think they had Knights. Now we have the Queens, and then Ladies will come out later. But that's how the opportunity began. So going from nonfiction to fiction and with a writing partner was definitely, again, something new, something challenging. Now the beautiful thing, Erica and we get along great, and we complement each other so well in our writing that one of the comments was like, we couldn't even tell where your voices blended. The storytelling was so well But I think the way we write our story, she's great with the dialogue and I have so much fun. I mean, she's great with descriptions and I have a ton of fun with dialogue, but we work together. It wasn't like you take chapter 1 and I do 2 and 3. We literally work together, for that. So that is everything that kind of happened like within the last year. So I'm still pretty new, but to kick out kind of 2 books, push through that whole thing. That's where they are. They're at everywhere books are sold. So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, a lot of the places. And then if you ever want some more information, my website is just kadeshapowell.com. And then what I'm working on now currently is I'm in a Hallmark rom-com cohort. So I was able to join this class and we'll end in 2 weeks. So my goal hopefully will be that I have my screenplay, sold to rom-com, Hallmark or Lifetime or some, type of network, and get that produced. So that is what I'm working on. In the class currently I have about out of 85 pages, we're probably about 60, so I'm a tiny bit behind there, but I'm going to, get myself caught up because I really enjoy the story and I just really like writing. So just embracing all aspects of it. Other opportunities have come up. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now.
Okay. So do you see yourself doing this long term as far as writing books, or is this just a phase you're going through right now?
No, I would love to make a career out of it. So I am working to expand out. So with Growing Up Joplin, it's in several of the libraries. Since I was a teacher for 13 years, I'm kind of working on making a curriculum, to go with it as a reading companion, because it definitely could fit high school. Great lessons in there as well. And then if I could find a way to work full time, I would do it, which is now again where I start working with a couple of clients that I have to help them write their stories. So what they get with me as a teacher, because I know how to kind of I'll talk to them, I get to know my clients, I will know how to break down getting their story done within 90 days. At least let's get this first draft written. We're going to get it edited. I'm going to show you the shortcuts that I learned and other things that I learned on my own to help them write their own story. So I'm very passionate about moving to this next stage. And on July 9th, I'm actually holding a Write Your Memoir Live masterclass. It's going to be a free masterclass. And again, all the information is at my website, kadeshapowell.com. And then at the end, maybe opportunity for me to help others tell their story. So I'm very passionate about that, especially people, who identify, as people of color, because again, I feel it's our time to tell our stories our way. And that's going to cut out some of the stereotypes that we see in movies and other books when people think they know the Black experience, but they have a stereotypical view of the Black experience. I want us to tell our unadulterated experience of what we experienced, how we felt, because no one can tell us we didn't feel that way. Some of those challenges I've come against people trying to white explain racism to me and stuff. And I'm like, you can't discount what I experienced, and so that's kind of some of the challenge when people want to push back on topics that make them uncomfortable. But again, all of us have a story. And the more stories that are out there, I think the next generation is going to be able to appreciate it. So that's why I'm a huge fan of self-publishing, because it helps us level the playing field, just like the internet and stuff like that. You have a podcast, you're able to grow your own, crowd, because previous when podcasts came out, I never saw us, and if I saw us, it was sports, it's some, but we're talking about basketball, we're talking about this, but not just people talking to people, saying, what, I experienced that. I felt that same way. And now, again, like I said, the internet, YouTube, and all these platforms is helping us kick our voice out here when so many times our voices are muted or we're told to shut up. We're told dribble and play, sit in the back, be quiet. That we need this helps us break those type of things.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the big reasons I started my podcast, was because I felt like in the minority community, we don't have enough dialogue amongst ourselves, because I talk about real topics too. I don't just do interviews, but mental health is a real issue as far as among Black people, and just having a conversation with like-minded people or people from different backgrounds on a platform could do wonders for people. Just getting reassurance and confidence in themselves, just knowing that people think like them or been through similar situations. So that was the main reason why I started my podcast 2 years ago. But
Oh,
um,
that's
as far as like the success of your books, do you have like a roundabout number off the top of your head? How many books have you sold? And also just describe some interactions when you first start putting this out, like interactions you had in person or on social media, people just giving you positive feedback about it.
Yeah, so social media, I haven't experienced any negative. So when I went to Joplin, I said, I can't write about my hometown and not go there. So I planned my own little book tour. I went to Joplin, now thinking of a small town, reached out to my family and friends, so I was able to get on the morning news and talk about the book. We had a book signing event at a kind of like open market. And so I had a table and had everything. We sold 75 copies. So I sold out, of the copies. I had a friend, she works with students in juvenile, so I set aside 10 for her. Now the beautiful thing is tons of support. The thing about a small town, most of the people that, again, that I grew up with, still chit chat with, still interact with Facebook, they all came out to support, whether they came to say, hey, they all came to buy, said that, they let I signed the books, and even they were bringing other people in. So that was just really beautiful. I had a meet and greet after that, to where I could just sit down and chill and hang out with folks. So I sold another few copies there. Probably the ebook, we've probably maybe sold, I don't know, maybe 400 or 500 copies. I have to check the numbers the last, but with the paperback, that's where I'm making my money back, because my paperback is $10 versus a $2.99. And then I love I'm an extreme extrovert. So give me an event where I could talk my way, and before I know it, the books are gone. And then, well, how can, I've been invited to be a book club guest. And so that's happened a couple times. I've been invited to speak at other events. So having the book and putting yourself out there has opened up other opportunities that, I may not have had, in the same situation. Now, I also know, because I had taught media, the good comes with the bad, so if somebody has one negative comment, I just chuck it off and be like, okay, well, and I tell people my book's not for everybody, so if you read the premise and it ain't for you, okay, cool, move on. That's why we have our own personal preference. I don't read everything. I like what I like to read, and that's okay. But, yeah, so that's kind of why, I felt there. So I'm hoping again and continue on with the path. Again, I hope to see my name, in the credits as a writer for my screenplays. And so that's, why. Now, I do want to give a shout out to my husband. He's in IT and tech, so he's super supportive. So there's no huge pressure or demand to be like, you have to do this and this. He's very proud of the kind of work I do. So I just told him, can you just give me about 6 to 8 months? Let me just kind of see what we happen here, because I left teaching in January, like I said, before I either look back into getting a job or, going from there. Let me just explore here. So, I've been productive in the 6 and 8 months with the writing, with the podcasting, and other opportunities. So he's super supportive. If I think I need a little bit more time, it's not a big issue, but, to have to be like, oh, you have to work. So I know that I'm blessed in that situation, very appreciative of him, being able to really like hold me down, take care of me in that arena. And so, yeah, so that I know I'm in a unique situation where it's not everybody's opportunity to be able to focus on their craft full time.
Mm. Yeah, I was just about to ask that. Would you leave your job if you got to a certain amount of success with the books and things like that? I was just about to ask that.
Yeah. So yeah, I left teaching not for writing. It was just a lot going on. But yeah, these last 6 months or so, I've been able to focus on my writing. And so, like I said, I have almost 2 screenplays written, outlined for my next series book. So I'm really, pushing myself to kind of go back. And he told me, okay, if you want to go out, that's on, that's on you. You don't have to. But, like I said, it's just really nice to be in that situation.
Yeah. So what are your short and long term goals as far as like everything you got going on right now?
Yeah. So short-term goals in the next kind of 2 weeks to knock out my screenplays. My teacher, her name is Erin Rodman. She actually has sold 5 Hallmark films in the last she wrote them, they've been produced on Hallmark Channel in the last 2 years. So she's been a huge asset. So I hope, at the end of my class, once everything's done, that she has some opportunities or some contacts that where I can find out my next steps to get it sold or get it in producers' hands or find out those next steps. So I know that be it having her as a teacher as well as like a mentor has been great, since she's right now in the thick of the field. She's there. So then now with Nelena Kai's group, just getting the outline for the next series that I'm a part of, that's going to come out in December 2023. So those are some things. The rest of the time, just go to Cabo, some vacationing. That's my second part. I'm a travel agent, so love to travel. I've been to about 15 or 16 countries. I think again, travel opens our eyes, to such different experiences. And I vacation and I've mission tripped, two different experiences, but being able to be like, wow, have appreciative of what we have here in the US and what other cultures and countries, are experiencing. And so that is that. So yeah. And long term, again, hopefully keep pushing my writing to where I can do it full time. And if not, give me a little part-time or give me a, job to just have my own little couple dollars, to kind of do whatever, because it's a lot that goes into publishing and editing and making sure that it's right. And that's why I tell people, if you're going to self-pub, don't skip any steps. You got to hire a book cover. You got to hire someone who's going to do your edits and help you find any plot holes. Because I think the thing that hurts self-publish is that anybody can self-pub. They can just throw it on Amazon and bam, it's out here. And some of the stuff is not great. So that's some of the things that hurt. But now again, we're trying to push people, do it the best you can do, and so you're gonna have to pay for some things. You're gonna have to pay for your cover, because all of our covers have already popped. People always pick up the book and say, oh, that's a beautiful cover. And Jeremy JL Woodson Studios, he's based in Houston. He's done all of our covers for our tribe books, and he's amazing. So that the editing is a little bit of money and time, but don't you want to kick out the best product? So people, oh, I could just do this, I could do that. You could, but you can't. You're gonna miss stuff if you try to do your own edits. It helps to have a couple pair of eyes to catch those things to make it stronger and tighter.
Right. So do you have anything else that you want to push out to the people that I might not cover?
Yeah, no, I just want to say, follow your dreams. Don't, regardless of how you started, you get to hopefully control how you end, or maybe some trajectory. You have a story to tell, and tell it your way. If you are interested in wanting to write your own story in your memoir, please reach out. Again, as a book coach, I'm helping my clients. I only focus on memoir writing and self-help. Because again, a lot of people are gurus about every book, but if you don't read every book, how do you know what needs to go in there? That doesn't make sense to me when book coaches, I do everything, but it's like, okay, well, what about fantasy? Well, I don't read fantasy. So how can you coach me on writing a fantasy book when you've never published one and you haven't gone through the steps? So that's why my heart is the memoir, helping people tell their stories, and they don't even have to go to publication. Maybe they want to leave it for a legacy for their children or whatever, or they just want to get out, because writing is very therapeutic. And again, the writing, and again, having a strong therapist has helped me like tremendously in this last year. And as you said, the mental health, I'm definitely a strong component to reach out, kind of get out of the way of the stereotypes of having a therapist and going to therapy, because it can really help you. So I just want to say, Eric J. the Great, I appreciate you taking time to interview. It's been a pleasure. And, the time is like shot by so fast.
Yeah. I got one last question.
Yeah.
What's your end goal as far as like when you first started this process with a pandemic, with books and everything you got going on right now, as far as still putting new books out, being a book coach and plays, things like that. What is the end goal, and how do you want to affect people? How you want to touch people, like what you want people to know you by, as far as like what you got going on with your movement and things like that.
Right. Yeah. So just the teacher, the mother, the storyteller, and me, excuse me, all three of us just want to help people tell their stories. I want to go in a bookstore and just see a plethora, of us on the covers, on the shelves, not these tiny little sections. I want to go to airports and look and see us, not just for Juneteenth or Black History, just to be able to see and mixed in here. Now, again, like I said, all of us have a story, and our ancestors, they verbally told us the stories. And so now we have the means to be able to put it on paper, where we not only have the verbal, we now have the written, because long after I'm gone, the book still be here. And then the people component, I have a heart for people, which is why I love teaching. I know that I could pull the stories out. So that's why I really want to focus on the book coaching part from there. Okay, excuse me. Excuse me, I'm sorry, a little bit of allergies, and help people tell their stories. So I know I have a passion for both. So whoever I work with will be impacted. And I just want to be able to be known as like a bubbly, fun person who help people, get to their goals. So that's kind of where my heart is. And I know if I keep pushing, I'm going to reach them, because nothing's there to stop me from other than me stopping myself.
Absolutely. So let people know how to find you and on social media and your website and things like that.
Yes. So social media on Instagram, I'm Kadesha_Powell, as same as Twitter. And then TikTok is just Kadesha_PS. But you can find me at my website where I keep it updated, KadeshaPowell.com. And then I'm real active on my emails, pretty active on my social media as well. So you can hit me up the DMs if you want more information. And like I said, hit my website. I'm hosting a 4-hour masterclass on July the 9th, Saturday, July 9th from 12 to 4 Eastern. It's free. There is a VIP option if you want to have some personal time prior to that, but I want to help people, just give them the information on how to get started. So right now I'm getting into marketing, promoting the event to get people in the room to start this process.
Okay. And that's it. I appreciate you coming on the podcast. You can come on the podcast anytime you want to.
Oh, thank you.
I'll push something out. I drop episodes every week. I drop once a week. So I know your interview is let me look at my calendar real quick.
Okay.
I know it's supposed to come out in July.
Oh, okay.
Because I got a couple more that comes out before. Let me see. Yeah, we got. Let's see. Yep. So yours, that drops July 20.
July 20th. Okay.
No, so August 1st is when the interview.
Oh,
Yeah, that Monday, August 1st.
oh, okay.
Yeah, because I only drop on Mondays. Like,
Okay.
Like I was pushing out like a lot of content, like 4 or 5 times a week, and then like, this is not the efficient way of doing this. So I had to switch it up recently. So
okay, I understand. And so my goals hopefully have at least a mastermind once a month. So hopefully, even if they hear me and they miss July, hopefully they could go to the website and I'll have August date up and ready.
yeah. But I upload everything tonight. So I don't know if you follow my YouTube channel, but I premiere every video, so you'll see the date and everything if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I drop them at the same time on Monday at 12 o'clock at noon.
Okay.
So
yeah.
And like I talk about real stuff too, like I talk about relationships, child support, police brutality, like a lot of different stuff. So, anytime you want to come on, you can feel free to hit me up.
Sweet. Do you ever talk to 2 people at one time?
Yeah. I just did a podcast, 2 weeks ago with my friends. It was 3 of us on here. Well, it was 4. It was 3 of them. It was 4 altogether, but
Yeah. Yeah. So if you ever, this is just food for thought. My husband is Nigerian. So we have definitely had some cultural, great conversations, as well as like trying to figure out how to bring the two groups together. Because it's a lot of misunderstanding on both sides. I would say misinformation, not understanding, but misinformation on both sides of the spectrum. It's been interesting, because we've been together 4 years, but again, still some of the cultural things, kind of come up from that. But yeah, so that's definitely something for the cultural things that are like, wow. So yeah.
But yeah, this concludes today episode, and the link in my Instagram has every platform that my podcast is on. I'm on 12 different platforms.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple, every possible
Yeah.
podcast platform. So you can click the link and go to my YouTube channel to keep up when the video drop. The video is gonna drop on that day, but I'm just saying, just so you can get a notification on when it
Oh
drops.
yeah. Yep. Okay. Yep, I will do. I don't have a Spotify, but I think all the rest of them, any of them I have, I'll get on there and follow you, get the notifications. Like I said, I watched Marie's and I was like, oh, this is awesome. I think I subscribed. I'll have to see if I did, from that. So,
All
yeah,
right,
thank you again. I appreciate it.
all right, no problem. And you have a good night.
All right, you too.